Chapter 559, True Intentions. There was, however, one point that Ling Tian had failed to predict. After Ling Tian had comprehended this level, in just a short 2 years, his usage and skill were comparable to Ling Tian and Li Zhu. Based on Li Zhu's judgment, Ling Tian's assassination skills at that time had become a sort of art, allowing one to witness the beauty of death at the moment of killing. Ling Tian commented that if merely based on the skill level of assassinations, even justice would have to be ranked behind him. Of course, this was only based on assassination techniques, and it did not mean that Ling Tian had the ability to kill anybody he wished. For example, Yu Man Lu and Shui Wu Bo, based on Ling Tian's skill, even if he completely hid his killing intent, he would still face an insurmountable difficulty when assassinating them. As for justice, nothing more needed to be said. Inside the room, Ling Tian worriedly stared at the 4 people who resembled sculptures as they stood there. Young noble, the shock this time might be too big to Ling Tian. I'm afraid a broken bar. Ling Tian and Ling Tian grew up together since they were young, thus to her, Ling Tian was akin to a blood-related sibling. Other than Ling Tian, he was the closest to her. Even when she flared up and beat Ling Tian up the other time, he still held no grudge against her. However, Li Zhu was considered an outsider to the two of them, hence to be beaten up so badly by a poor and weak girl, how much face would Ling Tian still have left? Ling Tian could not help but worry. Nothing will happen. Ling Tian shook his head. When he was back in Northern Wei, I had already discovered some of his problems. With the reputation the first pavilion enjoys in Heavenly Star, he started to think that he could go wherever he wished. He wasn't aware that he had not met with any unique circumstances or missions, and thus thought of himself as high and mighty, looking down on martial exponents. Thus at that time when he met against the exponents of the Yu family, with Yu Man Lu himself taking action, if it was not a coincidence for me to be in the same place, his life would forever be forfeit there. From now onwards, our enemies, the Zhao and Yu family, will all possess true experts. If we still allow them to behave rashly, then our losses will undoubtedly be great. The Yu and Zhao, one with a millennium-long background and the other with above heavens as a backer, their foundations are strong and they can afford the losses, but we can't. Especially Ling Tian and Ling Kai's group, they're keen to my own brothers. Even if we can lose them, would you be willing? In these few years, after coming into contact so many times, their identities can no longer just be compared to leader-subordinate relationships. They're all my brothers, my comrades. I'm not willing to see anyone injured. Ling Tian gazed to the horizon, slowly speaking. Thus, everything must change. But if I were to execute the change, no matter how I beat Ling Tian, there will not be any hate, and the effects would be poorer. Thus, when I was inside Northern Wei, I happened to bring this up. Li Zhu said she would handle it, and thus I didn't ask further. Ling Tian smiled. Never did I think that she would play the role of such a shameful person, with her actions so extreme. However, this is good as well. This is the sort of method Ling Tian needs to thoroughly wake up. While painful and humiliating, it is this sort of pain and humiliation that can make him improve continuously. The reason why I never exposed this was because he's treating Li Zhu as a benchmark now, not me. I cannot let him lose sight. Sister Li Zhu's actions are just always so extreme. Upon recalling the cruel training Li Zhu forced upon her, Ling Tian could not help but let out a shiver. She then frowned. But while Jian is improving, Li Zhu is also constantly improving. Her talent is one that is seldom seen in life, other than young noble and justice himself. Even Mr. Yi Qingchen might not be her opponent at all. How can Ling Tian have the chance to see a broken bar? Ling Tian laughed in response. This will see how much Ling Tian can transform, and to what stage he can break through. During the breakthrough phase, he will naturally follow the path to the peak of the martial way. However, if he really wishes to scale to the summit, then just one failure isn't enough for him. He needs a true failure, an event that will make him fall then stand up again before he will really find the true way. In that instant, Ling Tian understood what Ling Tian was talking about, and her eyes widened in shocked. Martial order medallion owner, justice? Ling Tian snorted in laughter. That's right. Today is only a duel and not a decisive battle. As such, there is only battle intent, and not killing intent. When Ling Tian faces off with justice, That would be a real life and death battle. If he manages to survive, then there will not be anything in this world that can kill Ling Tian anymore. When I deem it suitable, I'll arrange for Ling Tian to fight against justice. Ling Tian laughed. When will that time be? To fight with justice, isn't that as good as looking for death? While I only exchanged one blow with him the other time, my impression was that he himself was unfathomable. At that time, I could only pray for a young noble to annihilate the enemy quickly and had nightmares due to fear every day. Thinking back, I still tremble with fear. Young noble was able to escape from the pinnacle not only because of your profound cultivation but also because of good luck. Do you think Jian is as lucky as young noble? Ling Tian spoke with undisguised anxiety. Ling Tian only stared gently at her as he replied, no, for Ling Tian against justice, while he might lose, he will not be in life-threatening danger. Truth be told, luck played a huge role as to why I was able to escape from justice's hands. But Jian would not be in true danger, because the time he fights with justice will be directly before my last battle with justice too. Ling Tian gazed afar, falling silent. After a while, he slowly spoke, justice and I have been anticipating this battle, and before it, he will not kill my friends or my subordinates to destroy my mood. This would also vent his killing intent, which would not be beneficial for him. Ling Tian's tone was one of indifference, as though the matter was of no consequence. Just like the drifting clouds and wind. However, Ling Tian could detect an overflowing battle intent from him. This sort of anticipation gave Ling Tian a sense of heartache. It seems like there would still be a final battle between justice and Ling Tian one day. Ling Tian did not know how she felt in her heart. She knew just how scary justice was. To think that her beloved was actually going to battle him with such confidence. Hearing his tone, it seemed as though the two of them had come to some secret decision. Ling Tian only felt a sense of sadness, as well as some pride. Just how many people in this world could face off against justice? Most likely, only her young noble would dare to claim so. On that day, with that battle, it would definitely shake the old and illuminate the new, an unprecedented battle never to be replicated. Ling Tian lightly stretched out two fingers, placing them on Yu Bingyan's meridians. He closed his eyes, feeling his own internal energy flow like mercury into her meridians. Even though his eyes were closed, true his internal energy, he had a clear roadmap of her internal circuits, precisely and exactly appearing within his brains, without a single bit of detail missing. Yu Bingyan, however, did not even bother with what sort of condition her body had deteriorated to, neither did she know if her illness could be cured. All she did was to use her eyes to dumbly look at Ling Tian's face, full of love and satisfaction. The face that she had not seen for 4 months had appeared once more, giving her unknown bliss and happiness. So long as he was back, so long as nothing was wrong with him, nothing else mattered. Her illness, she would die sooner or later, what did it count for? Internal energy flowed into her slowly, filling up the meridians in her entire body. For the first time, Ling Tian truly understood what was called the divine black negative meridians. Within Yu Bingyan's heart meridian, there was a gas of a thick dark green color that spread from there, governing the various meridians and intertwining in a complicated manner all over her body. Through his true energy, Ling Tian could feel that the dark green gas contained an extreme frosty energy. The strength of this frost came from absorbing the nutrients in Yu Bingyan's body. If it was allowed to absorb to a certain extent, then it would rapidly multiply in strength once more. In the end, it was bound to replace the current meridians, and by then, there would be no way to save the situation. Between Yu Bingyan's Tanzong and Dantian acupoints, there instead existed a faint golden strength that let out a warm glow, continuously eroding at the power of the frosty negative energy in her body, keeping it in balance. However, through the process, the strength of it was also slowly dissipating. Ling Tian knew that it was the great cyclic pellet she ate the last time, which allowed the two opposing types of energies to clash and melt each other. However, from the situation, it seemed that while the great cyclic pellet had the ability to curb, it was not able to solve the problem from the root, because its strength and efficacy were not enough. This was seen from the two warring sides, where the great cyclic pellet's strength was in a weakening state. However, within Yu Bingyan's Danshan another warm source of strength actually existed, stubbornly guarding the area, neither attacking but not relinquishing any space. Probing it, Ling Tian realized it was the mysterious Yin Essence Heart Sutra he gave her that year. It seemed like this sort of internal cultivation method had some sort of effect after all. Chapter 560, Divine Black Negative Meridians. Divine Black Negative Meridians was actually a condition that appeared within one's meridians, instead of existing as a separate meridian on its own, much like a leech. However, its consequences were far worse than a simple leech. In order to treat Yu Bingyan's Divine Black Negative Meridians and allow her to become a normal person, one had to first completely destroy that source of frosty negative energy. Ling Tian originally thought that this was akin to a special physique like the extreme yin body women could have, and with enough positive true flames, one could change the situation from harm to benefit. He even thought of using his divine shocking dragon formula's internal positive energy to forcibly split and clash with her condition, reducing but not removing it completely such that she could practice the divine ice formula like Ling Tian and benefit from it instead of being harmed. But all his plans went down the drain right now, as the situation was totally contrary to his expectations. If he were to truly forcibly dissipate the frost poison within her body and keep it within instead of expelling it out, Yu Bingyan would turn into an ice sculpture in a matter of minutes and lose her life. This was because the frost poison within her far exceeded what a normal person could handle. Even Li Zhu or Ling Chen with their experience in the divine ice formula might not be able to handle it, not to mention Yu Bingyan with such a frail body. When the time came, even if an immortal descended, her life could still be forfeit. Ling Tian circulated his internal energy through her once again, searching every nook and cranny, and before disturbing the frost poison from the divine black negative meridians, he quickly pulled out. He let out a breath of turbid air, his eyes springing open as he stared at Yu Bingyan with a complicated look. To have such an extreme frost poison inside one's body, just how did Yu Bingyan actually live through the last few years? If the same air was present outside, even an expert would be reduced to a state neither living nor dead. And Yu Bingyan was just a gentle lady. Furthermore, because of her condition, she was unable to cultivate, and was as good as being a normal person. How could she withstand this poison for so long? How much pain had she suffered? Thinking about the indifference that Yu Bingyan showed daily, Ling Tian's heart began to hurt with stabs of pain. Looking at this sweet-tempered beauty, giving him a look like she had no grudges or regrets, Ling Tian could sense that to her, his own safety was more important than that of her own body. They could not be put in the same position, as though comparing Mount Tai to a chicken feather. What sort of feeling was this supposed to be? Ling Tian recalled at this time, what Ling Chen spoke to him about Yu Bingyan when the great elder Yu Shui came over. His heart could not help but surge in waves. I am Ling Tian's woman. Even if I were to die now, what would be written on my grave is that I was of the Ling family, with the maiden name of Yu, and not Yu Bingyan of the Yu family. Ling Tian's heart contracted, and he suddenly involuntarily exerted strength on his hands, pulling the beauty into his own embrace. Yu Bingyan gazed at Ling Tian's face in bliss, feeling her loved one's internal energy surging through her meridians. She felt as though she was immersed in satisfaction. While she had a terminal illness and was possibly incurable, possibly even dying tomorrow, for her to be recognized by the person she loved and to have him by her side was enough. Really satisfying. The heavens are really generous to me. Suddenly, she felt Ling Tian's eyes turn weird, half touching and half emotional, followed by a fiery look as she felt herself being pulled forward into his embrace. He hugged her so tightly, as though he was afraid to let go a broken bar. So warm. Yu Bingyan's mouth twitched, wanting to laugh, but instead two streaks of tears rolled down her eyes, noiselessly vanishing on Ling Tian's shoulders. A broken bar. After a long while, Ling Tian solemnly spoke, Yanner, did you feel any particularly unbearable pain in your body during this period? Lying on his chest, satisfied with just breathing in his smell, Yu Bingyan narrowed her eyes as she lazily replied, nothing at all. A broken bar. Really? Ling Tian shot her a suspicious look. A broken bar. Occasionally there would be outbursts, but they are more controlled and less painful than before. Yu Bingyan laughed out, her little head rubbing delightedly on his chest as she murmured. Her joy was evident from her voice, that even this was already good for her, and she did not dare to ask for more. A broken bar, occasionally a broken bar. Ling Tian brushed his chin against her soft hair, a pondering look on his face. What about the great cyclic pellets I gave you? During this time, how many of them have you eaten? As though feeling something was wrong, Yu Bingyan stammered out, a broken bar. Only a broken bar. She recalled that Ling Tian had told her to eat the pills once every half a month, but after hearing of the effects from the great cyclic pellet, on how eating one could produce an expert, she couldn't bear to eat more. Only when she could not take the pain did she actually eat one, and it was accompanied with a heavy sense of guilt. She thought that if Ling Tian's subordinates were to consume one instead, they could become the core strength of his army, and giving it to someone like her with numbered days was a waste, without even any use. Broken bar. Every time she thought about this, she would feel that she was even more useless. Not only could she not help Ling Tian, she even became his burden. When she thought along these lines, she would feel even sadder and feel it even more of a waste to consume the pellet. A broken bar. Only two? Ling Tian frowned, unhappily replying, didn't I tell you to consume it once every half a month? Why did you only take it twice? Yu Bingyan wiggled her body in discomfort, pleading, my memory isn't so good, and I always forget. A broken bar. Ling Tian only snorted in response, picking up the root of the problem easily as his face sank. Did you not eat the pellets after knowing about their effect? The more he thought, the more he deemed it possible, and the colder his face became. You want to leave them for me? To increase my strength, or to increase my subordinates' strengths? Let me create an army of experts. Yu Bingyan could only answer miserably, Danj, I was wrong. A broken bar. Ling Tian sighed as he replied, Yanner, you should be aware of your own body's condition. Of course, my initial purpose in refining the great cyclic pellet was to increase the strengths of Ling Jian and company. However, with the addition of the 1,000-year-old blood ginseng as well as the ice fire lotus, the end result can not only increase cultivation but also curb your divine black negative meridians. Furthermore, a huge batch of 113 pellets was produced, far outstripping my original estimates, but everyone could only consume one. Even if you leave all for me, where am I going to find so many experts to raise this sort of ferocious medicinal efficacy? If one's cultivation isn't at a certain realm, consumption will only cause the body to implode. Furthermore, those that I give the pellets to must first fulfill the criteria of being someone I can trust, or else if I end up grooming an unprecedentedly strong enemy, isn't that asking for suicide? As such, I took what I needed and left the last 30 pellets for you. Ling Tian warmly gazed at her, stroking her face as he smiled. Do you know, I originally intended for you to consume them for a year, allowing the medicine to corrode the poison to a certain extent before I use my internal energy in tandem with the great cyclic pellet to force the cold energy out. However, you actually did not follow my instructions, making me disappointed as we have missed the best time to cure your illness. In order not to induce her worry, Ling Tian purposefully reduced the amount of information regarding purging the cold energy out. If she knew how much danger Ling Tian would have to undergo in order to purge her poison, then she would never agree, maybe even choosing to secretly leave. So I see a broken bar. Danj, relax, I will be obedient in the future, okay? Yu Bingyan had a guilty expression as she lifted up her face to look pitifully at Ling Tian, pleading. It seemed like she still needs to calm down a little more. She looks depressed and sad, Ling Tian thought to himself. As such, he sighed again, emotionally saying, Yanner, did you still remember when we met, what I told you about being able to treat your illness? Yu Bingyan nodded as she said, I naturally remember. She then let out a mischievous smile together with some embarrassment as continued, I remembered every single word Tanj has spoken to me. Ling Tian smiled in response as he chuckled, my idea actually involves the great cyclic pellet. Based on my instructions for you to consume it, after my cultivation increases, I'll work with Ling Tian, one front and one back, one push and one pull, to completely remove toxins and let you recover to the peak of health. But who would have known that you would be so disobedient? actually only eating 2 of the pills. Most likely, the remnant medicinal strength in your body has almost been exhausted, completely out of my expectations. For me to expel the toxin out of you, I guess I'll have to use a lot more strength this time. Yu Bingyan slowly exclaimed with an ah sound. Her eyes filled with worry as she nervously replied, "Then a broken bar, will it be dangerous for you?" Ling Tian frowned and replied, "If we went according to the original plan, there would definitely be some danger, but a broken bar. If you could do something, then it should be absolutely safe." "What is that thing?" "I'll definitely achieve it," Yu Bingyan anxiously replied. "That something is from now on, within these 3 months, to take a great cyclic pellet every 10 days. You're not allowed to stop in between, and on the last day, you are to take 2 pellets at once, such that the positive energy will achieve a balance with the internal energy within your body. On that day, after you consume the pellets, Ling Tian and I will coordinate to force out your poison. I believe it will be something as easy as lifting our hands. However, if you still feel it a waste to consume, we will have to extend the duration we spend in purging the toxin, and thus the length we are exposed to it. If there are any slip-ups, it's easy to cause cultivation deviation, which will kill us. While we can achieve this plan without losses, if your illness flares up and we don't purge it out in time, you will lose your life." "Yanner, we took great pains to reach this stage. Don't tell me that you don't want to stay beside me for my whole lifetime." Ling Tian's face was unprecedentedly heavy, his tone solemn. Chapter 561, Changes in the East. Yu Bingyan's face immediately paled, and she exclaimed out loud, before covering her lips with her hands. In her eyes was extreme shock, and her head nodded violently as she replied, "Danj, relax, I'll take my medication on time and will not let you risk even a bit of danger because of me." As she spoke, Yu Bingyan's face turned a slight crimson, and she lowered her head, murmuring in a tiny voice, "All of me belongs to you, and I naturally want to a broken bar grow old with Danj, without leaving your side." Coming to the last few words, the thin-skinned little princess already turned a deep shade of red, burying her head into Ling Tian's chest. Ling Tian chuckled upon seeing her reaction. He could acutely feel the quaking of the lady currently nestled in his chest, and he crooned to her, "Yanner, did you ever think, in another 30 to 50 years, when we're old and unable to move, we will sit on a chair outside the courtyard, and count each other's black hair? We'll smile as we watch our sons and grandsons frolicking in front of us, and that is the epitome of a couple growing old together." Yu Bingyan only shyly hummed in response, and with fascination, secretly raised her head again to look at Ling Tian's face, while thinking to herself, "It would be nice if I can stay by Tanj's side for his whole life, till our heads are full of white hairs a broken bar. How blissful would that be? Even if you give me the chance to be an immortal, I would not exchange it for this." While Yu Bingyan continued to bask in bliss, her fingers softly tracing circles on Ling Tian's chest, they somehow reached a tranquil state, where both parties were immeasurably satisfied and happy. A broken bar. Ling Tian smiled and nodded his head. Towards this lass who was wholeheartedly in love with him, he only displayed his most tender affection for her from the depths of his heart. Thus, towards Yu Bingyan's thoughts, how could he not know? If he did not explain to her that the process was not dangerous, most likely, even if she was forced to consume the great cyclic pellet, she would still be worried about the potential gains and losses. Right now, Ling Tian aimed to induce her care and love towards him, linking her resolving of her illness to Ling Tian himself, after which he would paint a beautiful feature scenery such that it could induce her will to go on living. He believed that with this, the plan to get her to consume the pellets would go without a hitch, and he could relax his mind towards her. 3 months later, when Yu Bingyan's body was nurtured to the best condition, Ling Tian would then take the chance to sweep out all the toxins in one fell swoop. With the addition of Li Zhu, he naturally had a greater measure of success. Originally, Ling Tian was thinking of resolving the problem of Yu Bingyan's divine black negative meridians today, but upon scanning through her meridians and realizing that he had underestimated it, he increased the dosage of her great cyclic pellet consumption. But in this case, when they expelled the frost poison from her body, they would need to ensure that the medical efficacies were fully dissipated within her meridians, or else the strength of the pill would be equally scary. Without the mutual curbing of the meridians, and with her shallow cultivation, she would definitely not be able to withstand the strength of the great cyclic pellet. 3 months, Ling Tian breathed out. The winter would also just set in 3 months later, and the weather still would not be that cold. However, he should do a little something within this 3 months to occupy his time. Thinking about it, he never realized how fast time flew. By the time he wanted to stand up again, he found out that Yu Bingyan had unknowingly fallen asleep on his bosom, a hint of a smile on the corners of her mouth. Her sleep was undoubtedly sound, and looking at her delicate face, Ling Tian instinctively felt a need to protect her. He was clear that for Yu Bingyan to be able to fall asleep so soundly in the day, it showed just how worried she was in the last few months he was away. Yu Bingyan's anxious state of mind had also finally loosened up after seeing Ling Tian safe and sound, thus she immediately fell asleep after broken bar. Ling Tian felt moved, as well as a sense of gratitude. He merely silently stayed in place, lightly supporting her body. Their surroundings were still silent, without even the hint of noisy broken bar. Time seemed to fly by soundlessly the last few days. In these few days, Yu Bingyan had been tirelessly practicing her cultivation after consuming the pellets. Li Zhu broadened her knowledge on the various forces and operations of the courtyard. Zhao Yanzu almost went crazy trying to manage the messy accounts of the finances, and Ling Chen overlooked the entire situation, her feet seemingly not touching the ground as she ran from place to place. Only our young noble Ling led his days in a relaxed manner, having arranged all the matters to his subordinates such that he did not need to personally act. Lazing around, cultivating, reading his books, flirting with Ling Chen at night a broken bar naturally. He did more than that. But his days were spent in carefree bliss. Till one day a broken bar. In the intelligence web of the Ling family courtyard covering the 4 directions, Ling 9 who was responsible for the intelligence of the East ran like a whirlwind into the courtyard. There was a look of panic on his face and he was completely soaked in sweat. In a few moments, Ling Chen walked out with a grave expression, and went straight to Ling Tian's study. "Young noble, I'm afraid the East is in trouble." "Oh, trouble in the East?" Ling Tian raised his head. "Did Ling 9 pass you the news?" "That's right, in the morning 3 days ago, Ling 9 failed to receive any news from Li City. Even up till today, there has not been any news coming from them." In contrast, the surrounding few cities have sent around 3 to 4 news dispatches the last few days. Ling Chen's tone took on a grave note, as this was the first time it happened since the intelligence network was set up. For this to coincidentally happen right before the war, it was even more suspicious. Ling Tian gently knocked on his table, asking, "Li City, isn't that the one running horizontally across Zhaofengyang's route of advance with his army?" "That's right. Li City is the protective screen on the extreme east of Sky-bearing City. If it falls, then Ming Region, Zhou Prefecture, and Ku County will all be annihilated under the army of Zhaofengyang." After breaking through these cities, the distance between them and Sky-bearing would be less than 75 kilometers. Furthermore, the distance is made up of a wide and flat expanse of land, and there aren't many places we can actually defend. Ling Chen spoke with some anxiety. "It seemed like the Zhao family cannot resist making a move on us in the end." Ling Tian laughed, and a chilling ray of light shot out from his eyes. "I actually intended to drag things out at southern Jing, allowing Dongfeng Jinglei to accumulate a decent amount of strength before pincering Zhaofengyang. But to think that the old fox actually took the initiative to attack first, and furthermore, attacking a far-off remote city such as Li City, that's so not his style." After pondering for a while, Ling Chen nodded as well. "Young noble, do you want to send some people over to take a look?" Ling Tian chuckled at that. "Chinner, I'm not supposed to be back yet. You're the head this time, so whatever you wish to do, you can carry it out. I'll take a good look at how you plan your strategy, okay?" "Young noble is teasing me again." Ling Chen wriggled her body in embarrassment. However, she stopped, and solemnly continued, "While Li City's intelligence network is broken, the surrounding 3 cities are still operating as per normal. My hypothesis is that the enemy has only attacked Li City, and did not touch the other 3 surrounding ones. Most likely, our people did not reveal any of our secrets. Or else, the intelligence from the other 3 areas would have also been crippled. A shrewd look appeared in Ling Tian's eyes, and she deduced, and based on the news that the surrounding 3 cities have given, there haven't been any movements regarding Zhao Fengyang's forces. Thus the taking over of Li City should have been purely done by a small group of top elite experts, and might not necessarily be the direction their army is taking. His main objective is to deprive us of our eyes and ears. If that's the case, then there are only 2 possibilities. Ling Tian sat with a smile on his face as he listened to Ling Tian's deduction. His heart was filled with satisfaction upon seeing how much she had grown in the time he was not around. Right now, her line of thought already had the bearings of an elite strategist, and this made Ling Tian extremely gratified. He dimly heard Ling Tian continuing, "The first possibility is that Zhao Fengyang is preparing to take over Li City in one go, forcing himself into Skybearing's hinterland. The second is for him to cut off our intelligence from the east, after which they will convert the area into theirs. Be it either suggestion, we cannot sit on our haunches and wait." "Then, in your opinion, which option is more likely?" Ling Tian smiled. His carefree attitude allowed Ling Chen to slightly calm down her frazzled nerves. She slowly sat down, and after a moment of frowning, replied uncertainly, "Chenner thinks that the second method is more likely. After all, a lone force striding deep into enemy territory runs the risk of being destroyed, and for someone of Zhao Fengyang's character, it's not too good to do so." A smile of praise surfaced, and Ling Tian followed up, "If it's a second approach, then which side would Zhao Fengyang be more likely to move towards?" Ling Tian grinned as he hinted, "On one side, is the 200,000 strong army of my father, confronting with southern Jing. On the other, is General Shen with a count of 150,000 soldiers, pressuring the side between eastern Zhou and us. If Zhao Fengyang wants to make a move, he'll have to choose a side." Ling Tian smiled. "Which side do you think Fengyang will choose?" Ling Chen froze and stammered. This point a broken bar is hard to judge. Ling Tian burst into laughter as he asked, "Does the advisor know about this?" Ling Chen immediately said, "Before I came over, I already sent someone to call the advisor over to discuss some matters. He should be arriving soon." Just as her voice sounded, Meng Li had already pushed the curtain aside and walked in. He courteously bowed before sitting himself. It was then that Ling Tian found out this great military advisor was actually holding onto a small teapot, with steam still emitting from it as it let out a refreshing aroma of tea leaves, together with a slight astringent taste. "Mr. really knows how to enjoy life." Ling Tian could not help but smile. Meng Li squeezed his eyes in satisfaction as he stroked his beard, saying, "As a commander, one must guard against pride and impatience. Before a big battle or any momentous event, the first thing we need to do is to have a calm heart. A heart in chaos leads to disarray on the battlefield. To calm down one's heart through tea has become my habit." "That is a good habit indeed," Ling Tian praised. "Oh, Mr.'s tea, isn't that the wind-dried lotus heart?" "It is indeed the wind-dried lotus heart," Meng Li replied with some amazement. "Young noble is indeed a kindred spirit, to be able to recognize it with one whiff." "This leaves me in astonishment." Ling Tian laughed, and warmly replied, "Wind-dried lotus heart lets out a bitter fragrance, unlike the sun-dried lotus heart. While it is also clear and refreshing, it does not have the astringent bitterness. It resembles a sour plum during the month of May, with a hint of being unripe. However, it is this precise unripe aspect that makes the lotus heart so precious." "A clever description." Meng Li immediately clapped and praised, bursting into laughter. Ling Chen stared at these 2 men with some frustration. Things were already so fiery with people about to invade their backyard, but these 2 people started talking about matters of leisure the moment they saw each other, making her unable to grasp what was happening. Chapter 562, Surface Level, Concealed Level. After a long while, Ling Chen finally had a chance to bring the topic back to the scenario of war. Ling Chen suspected that if she didn't do that, The two men would probably continue on about this topic of tea all the way until the sun set, and the crows left a broken bar because when she interrupted, the two of them had already gone on to talk about tea trees thousands of years old, without even the slightest intention of stopping a broken bar. There were three different enemies from different sides who were becoming restless on the outside and might start a war anytime. However, one of their intelligence sources was actually cut off during this time. How worrying was this matter? From what Ling Tian saw, even the concept of 1,000 pounds of weight hanging on a thin thread was not enough to describe this precarious situation. But these two men actually started discussing tea like it wasn't their problem. Ling Tian do not know if it was her making a mountain out of a molehill or whether the two men were just boastfully pretending that they were unconcerned. However, be it Ling Tian or Ming Lij, would either of them engage in such behavior? Ming Lij was silent as he listened to Ling Tian repeat the entire situation once again. Stroking his beard, he turned to Ling Tian. I have a rough idea about this situation. However, what does the young noble think? Ling Tian internally rolled his eyes, thinking, you're the strategist, not me. If I had an answer for every question you pose to me, then what would I still need you for? However, he retained a passive expression, instead laughing and saying, I was just about to ask my advisor to lead the way out of this maze and alleviate my confusion. Ming Lij smiled knowingly. If word spread that young noble is back at the helm of Skybearing, then I believe the Zhao family would not dare to be so unrestrained and remove our own people. After all, the 1,000-year legend of Beyond Heaven's A1 token for one life has never failed, and because of that, if you become the only exception, it would be cause for the entire continent to shake. If we add in your title of going solo against 10,000 soldiers, then no one would dare to look down on you. The neighboring country's only choice left would be to work together with Southern Jing and Eastern Zhao, mobilizing both armies to deal with Skybearing. As for the Zhao family, they would instead act as the fishermen to reap the rewards when all three sides get injured in the war. That is Zhao Fengyang's style. Regarding this guy, I've researched the 30-odd times of his battles. He is unpredictable and full of treachery. However, he follows a certain modus operandi. Rather than aiming for an open and grand battle, he prefers to first beguile his enemies, and then he drops a vicious and mortal blow on them. In this way, not only are his losses the least, his gains are also the greatest. At this point, Ling Tian already knew what Ming Lij was about to say, and could not help but nod his head. Such tactics, while full of tricks, undoubtedly produce the most benefits. However, their disadvantages are also very clear. After you are used to this tactic, it is impossible for you to turn back once you have tasted the sweetness of victory. This is especially true for Zhao Fengyang. To be used to everything going his own way and used to taking advantage, the moment someone applies reverse psychology on him, he would fall and the Zhao family would eat a huge disadvantage. Ming Lij smiled. Right now, the most advantageous point we have is that Zhao Fengyang is still unaware of our young noble's safe return. Thus, his actions this time means that there is an important reason. He is not someone who will bring his army to clash with us. After all, be it Grand Marshal Ling or General Shen, they are people who have been through hundreds of fierce battles and are not to be trifled with. If Zhao Fengyang tangles with them, the battle cannot be ended in a short time, and the number of deaths will be huge. Once time drags on, the lone force of the Zhao's army will be trapped. Thus he will not take on this danger unnecessarily. Ling Tian frowned and said with some disbelief in her voice, Advisor Ming, you mean to say that the Zhao family's objective is not Skybearing? If that's the case, then why would they allow our other three cities to continue reporting news back to us? Don't they know that once they move, we will receive news and be able to prepare in advance? A light smile surfaced on Ming Lij's mouth in response. There are three reasons why I came to this deduction. The first, in the eyes of an outsider, the young noble is not helming Skybearing, and with the pursuit by justice, while the Ling family still has Lady Ling Chen to stabilize matters, it is ultimately not enough. Secondly, our Ling family has sent 350,000 soldiers out to placate the people's hearts and show that they are not weak, but no matter what, their internal guards would still be pretty empty. Furthermore, the two generals had approached the Ling family courtyard to take many soldiers and horses, and thus, we appear to be only strong on the surface. Lastly, The Ling family is warring on two separate lands. If the Zhao family were to go in and do a three-pronged attack, then at that time, we will naturally collapse. Thus, the Zhao family's target this time is without a doubt, sky-bearing. They might not even send in their complete army, just having a troop of 3,000 to 5,000 secretly slip in during the night and attack the Ling family as well as the Ling family courtyard, as well as spread the word that the young noble has died in justice's hands. When chaos spreads, then the army can send in their soldiers, reaping the largest benefits for the smallest price. Meng Lij laughed, a far-sighted look in his eyes. If I'm Zhao Fengying, then other than this, there would be no better way. With his consistent behavior, this type of method also has the greatest probability. Ling Chen's face fell. If this was the case, then based on the Zhao family's and above heaven's combined strength, sending an elite troop in secret was no big deal. Even if they could not wipe the Ling family off the map, and even if they all died in sky-bearing, a chaotic war was still bound to occur. Right now, what the Zhao family needed was this sort of mess in sky-bearing. Fishing in troubled waters. Even southern Jing and eastern Zhao all hoped for such a chaotic situation. So long as the Ling family was thrown into disarray, even if the Ling family continued to pressure them, it would be disadvantageous. As for the Zhao family as the other influences, what they were waiting on was precisely this disadvantage. Making use of rumors to fan the fires, all of the armies would then invade sky-bearing. In this manner, it would pose a huge trouble for the Ling family. If that's the case, then what shall we do? Ling Chen looked at Ling Tian and Meng Lij, but all she saw was Ling Tian smiling like a Cheshire cat, while Meng Lij was stroking his beard idly, causing her to subconsciously relax. Chinner, relax, since our advisor has already seen through the intentions of the other party, how could he not have a solution? Ling Tian smiled towards Meng Lij. Since I've already handed command of the army to Mr., then everything will be left up to you. Ling Tian here will hide like a little foot soldier, listening to Mr.'s command. How can that be? It's only when this matter happened that I suddenly found out just how far-sighted young noble is, as well as how profound your schemes run. Meng Lij smiled respectfully at Ling Tian. Young noble obviously has already prepared everything beforehand regarding this war, and Lij is actually just taking all your efforts and using my minute strength to execute it. Can Mr. explain, what sort of stage did young noble set up? Ling Chen widened her eyes in shock. Ling Tian had already handed command over to Meng Lij, so why did he say it was Ling Tian's effort? From their looks, it did not seem that they were blowing each other's trumpets. Years ago, young noble had already separated the intelligence systems into one on the surface level, and one which was concealed. This matter should be known to Lady Chen, right? Meng Lij sighed emotionally. Who would have thought that the four intelligence branches of the Ling family would actually shake the world so with a hard-to-come-by strength rarely seen in the world? Not only are the personnel elites among the elite, the secrecy of the organization leaves one sighing in wonder. To think that young noble still has another unrelated intelligence network, the Crystal Pavilion. The skill of the Crystal Pavilion seems not below that of the surface intelligence, and even shows signs of surpassing it. Meng Lij sighed once more in amazement. As such, no matter how the enemy destroys our Ling family's surface intelligence, so long as the Crystal Pavilion exists, there will not be any apprehensions regarding our intelligence reports. I believe young noble had already planned for such a purpose from the start. Thus, this tells me just how wise as young noble is, to plan so far ahead from the beginning. Ling Tian was a little amazed. Him secretly setting up the Crystal Pavilion was actually to make things easier for himself, as well as create another important source to rob riches off people. To think that because of this affair with the Zhao family, he was actually thought of as preparing for a rainy day by Meng Lij. Ashamed, he really was ashamed. Ling Tian was stunned speechless, thinking to himself, my great advisor, you really think too highly of me. Even if I were to plan ahead, it can't be to the point that I would account for the loss in my personnel, right? Could it be that I planned a few years before to sacrifice my painstakingly taught elites so I could prove my far-sightedness? That would be too foolish. However, looking at Meng Lij's admiring look, Ling Tian could only stroke his chin and laugh bitterly to himself. And since we have the Crystal Pavilion as a hidden chess piece, whatever the Zhao family is planning, we will be able to counterattack. As for my speculation, Meng Li solemnly spoke while raising his teacup to take a sip, I will use Zhao Fingyang's original habits in deducing the plan. However, a strategy can never keep up with sudden changes, and this might not actually take place. While I dare say I have some confidence in this, we still have to prepare for contingencies. Thus, from now on, all the intelligence networks belonging to the Ling family will go undercover. This is to let the Zhao family think that we are trying to avoid a loss and have pulled back our men. As such, this will allow us to numb them while we keep track of their actions through the Crystal Pavilion. Chapter 563, Lige's Plan. Second, with regards to the stalemate in southern Jing, we have to spread rumors to say that the Zhao family has already formed an alliance with our Ling family and we are prepared to divide up southern Jing. With the relationship between family head Zhao Fenghan and Old Master, there will be a 50% chance of people believing this rumor. At the very least, it would create unrest in southern Jing and destroy all hopes of southern Jing forming an alliance with the Zhao family. A cunning smile could then be seen on Meng Li's face. The moment the Zhao family makes their move, we will spread the news that young noble Ling has successfully killed the martial order medallion owner. It won't matter if the Zhao family doesn't dare to spread rumors about young noble being killed, but if they do so, the effects of both rumors will cancel out. If the Zhao family retreats without a battle, young noble Ling's name would be renowned over the continent and the prestige of our Ling family would be raised. Ling Tian's eyes lit up brightly and she nodded her head profusely. The moment Meng Li mentioned these two ideas, she had already begun formulating her own thoughts on them and also how she could ensure that the plan was carried out smoothly. If Meng Li's plan could be carried out successfully, not only would the Ling family not suffer any losses, the prestige of the Ling family would be increased to a never-before-seen level. Ling Chen never imagined that the news that she was frightened about could be so easily resolved by Meng Li with just a simple plan. At this moment, Ling Chen no longer had any doubts about Meng Li's wisdom. Third, we must gather the strength of the bandits in the east. According to what I know, there should be 2 groups of bandits in the east, right? With each group being about 3,000 men strong? Meng Li asked with a bit of uncertainty. All of these forces across the continent were Ling Tian's top secret forces and the biggest secret in the courtyard. Meng Li only vaguely knew about them and about the existence of these forces. However, there weren't any records of these forces in the courtyard and he could only make a guess. Ling Tian responded with a before explaining. There is only one group which is about 1,000 men strong, however, they are all elites. I transferred the other group to the territory where General Shen is stationed to aid him. Besides that, in case Dong Feng Jinglei goes rogue, that group would be the hidden trump card to deal with him. Oh, Meng Li shut his eyes and replied, if that's the case, my original plans must be amended slightly. However, even if we can't use these 1,000 men to steal the enemy's supplies, we would be able to use them to disrupt the supply transportation routes of the enemy. If Zhao Fingyang does not make a move, there isn't a need for them to make a move. But the moment Zhao Fingyang's army moves out, this group of bandits must begin their harassment operation. They can choose to kill, burn or even destroy the roads to create a shortage of food within the Zhao family's army. Even if they can only delay the supplies for a few days, they must make it happen. Meng Li chuckled. As long as the supplies of the Zhao family can be delayed for more than 3 days, we can spread rumors about the destruction of the Zhao family's supply warehouse to throw their soldiers into chaos. Brilliant! Ling Tian clapped his hands. If the morale of the troops is unstable, we can use assassinations or arson to cause a mutiny. That's right, Meng Li laughed. Besides that, we must ensure that Dong Feng Jinglei gathers his forces during this period of time to openly engage the Eastern Zhao imperial family. At that time, even if the Zhao family has the intention to form an alliance with Eastern Zhao would not have the spare soldiers to deal with us. Furthermore, the 150,000 soldiers that General Shen has is sufficient to ensure that Eastern Zhao does not make any rash moves. On top of that, we can openly send a diplomatic group to the Wu Empire to befriend them. Meng Li chuckled cunningly. We only need to send them some silk and leather without doing anything else, and it would be enough to make Southern Jing and the Zhao family suspicious and on edge. After all of these arrangements, we can then sit back and relax. At that time, we can focus on retaliating against the Zhao family's forces. Young noble and Ling Tian can then lead the elites of our courtyard out in 3 different directions. If the Zhao family really dares to send their elites to infiltrate into Skybearing, we will make sure that they don't return alive. It wouldn't matter if Zhao Fengyang doesn't make a move, but the moment he makes his move, we can make use of this opportunity to chase him back to his hometown. It seems like Advisor Ming does not intend to let me off. Would it be a crime for me to peacefully rest for a few days? Why is everyone so keen on chasing me out? Ling Tian joked. The capable must be in charge of more. Ming Li stroked his beard and smiled. With young noble's abilities to fight justice, would there be anyone in the world capable of dealing with young noble? This Ming is naturally at ease with young noble taking action personally. As he said that, Ming Li's eyes lit up. It's also fine if young noble does not wish to go out. As long as young noble makes an announcement to the world and ascends the throne, you would naturally not need to go out. Since the ancient times, there has never been an emperor out on an assassination mission. Then it's best for me to go. Ling Tian laughed bitterly. Grandfather and father are both extremely healthy. For Mr. Ming to suggest that I ascend the throne, aren't you pushing me into the fire? Just a single crime of being unfilial to my parents is enough for the world to launch an attack at Skybearing. I really don't understand your family. Ming Li shook his head and sighed. The 3 of you choose to leave the throne empty and avoid it like the plague. How baffling. Ling Tian laughed bitterly. His grandfather Ling Zan was already old and did not have thoughts of ascending the throne. With his father's personality, his father would probably fly into a rage upon ascending to the throne and expel all the civil officials in the court and run the country with the military. Besides that, an emperor needs to have concubines, and with his mother in control, his father would never dare to ascend to the throne because of that. With 2 generations of his elders still alive, wouldn't it be akin to cursing his elders in early death if Ling Tian ascended to the throne? Such a taboo was something that Ling Tian would never commit. Thus, the throne was temporarily left empty. A broken bar. Mr. Ming, it is best for you to continue. Ling Tian laughed dryly and wiped off his sweat. Besides that, Ling Tian would lose all of his freedom the moment he ascended to the throne. Ling Tian still wanted to lead a carefree life for a few more years. A broken bar. A broken bar. Ming Li looked at Ling Tian and could not help but burst out laughing. After thinking for a moment, a barely discernible smile could then be seen on his face. As long as young noble is able to eliminate the elites of the Zhao family that have infiltrated into Skybearing, Zhao Fengyang would be surrounded from all directions by our multi-pronged strategy. Regardless of how many tricks and plans he has up his sleeves, he would have no choice but to make a retreat. At that time, young noble's plans for Southern Jing can also be carried out. Without any reinforcements, Southern Jing should change their surname to Ling in less than 10 months. With us conquering Southern Jing and Dongfang Jinglei supporting us in Eastern Zhou, both our armies can gather together to swallow Eastern Zhou. At that time, only the final battle with the Zhao family would be left and half the continent would be within our reach. If this plan was carried out properly, it wouldn't be impossible for them to destroy Fengyang's army. However, Ming Li's plan did not seem to include destroying Zhao Fengyang's army. Ling Tian could not help but to doubtfully ask, does advisor mean that even if we have the chance to wipe out Zhao Fengyang, we should not take it but allow him to leave? Wouldn't we be allowing the tiger to return to the hills? That's right. Ming Li looked at Ling Tian with praise before explaining, the Zhao family is the #1 financial magnate and even has the support of above heavens. This is not the time for us to engage in an all-out battle with them. Besides that, they have sent out 300,000 soldiers this time around, and if we were to wipe out Zhao Fengyang's army, the Zhao family would definitely retaliate in full force. At that time, even if we are able to attain victory, it would be a Pyrrhic one. This would affect our plans with Southern Jing and Eastern Zhou as well, and if they were to interfere with our battle with the Zhao family, we may end up losing. Thus, this isn't the best time to deal with the Zhao family, and even if they were already in our mouth, we would have to spit them out. Ming Li then let out a profound sigh. the situation can change drastically in just an instant and we cannot expect too much from Dongfeng Jinglei. If the situation is disadvantageous towards us, Dongfeng Jinglei may very well stab us in the back. The most important thing for us to do now would be to settle southern Jing before the Yu family swallows up the Wu Empire. If the Yu family succeeds before us, we would be leaving our backs open towards the enemy. Furthermore, this enemy is the most powerful one in the world. This is something that we must never allow to happen. Mister's words are true. Ling Tian looked at Ling Chen. One more thing, a broken bar. Since I have already decided on making Zhao Yanzu my woman, I have to make proper considerations when dealing with the Zhao family. With regards to the upper echelons of the Zhao family, it is best if I don't kill them. Since she is already my woman, I cannot throw her into endless grief and sandwich her between me and her family. Not just the Zhao family, this would be the same for the Yu family as well. The Yu family can be destroyed, the Zhao family can be destroyed, but I have to give Yu Bingyan and Zhao Yanzu an explanation. Just like how the two of them chose me as opposed to their family, I have the duty to ensure their happiness, Ling Tian said solemnly. Thus, we have to be very careful with our actions. As for the others, we can do as the advisor has said and I do not have anything to add on. The military arrangements are very perfect and I am very satisfied. Ling Tian looked and Meng Lijin smiled. Thank you, young noble. Meng Lij stood up and bowed. Ling Tian then replied with sincerity, advisor is too polite. If I do not trust advisor, why would I keep you here? Since I trust military advisor, I will not doubt any of your decisions. Ling Tian looked at Meng Lij seriously. Even if it is wrong, I will not doubt. Chapter 564, Rumors Spreading. Even if it is wrong, I will not doubt. In that instant, Meng Lij's body shivered, and he felt a rush of hot blood surging inside him, turning his face ruddy. He held himself back, merely giving a bland smile, but one could see the rims of his eyes turning red. Ling Tian laughed and patted his shoulder before turning to Ling Chen. The commands will be passed down by you. Those elites who are sniping will be personally chosen by Ling Jian, and when they are ready to move, asking Ling Jian to report to me will suffice. Ling Chen respectfully called out before turning to leave, her footsteps light and graceful. Within her heart, there was still some form of happiness. One had to know that Ling Tian's previous words would be considered extremely soft-hearted in the eyes of a military advisor. It might even affect the entire operation, but to Ling Chen, she could feel the warmth within those words. It showed just how sentimental Ling Tian was as a person. While he might be ruthless and even despicable to his enemies, he would fully protect his own people, be it Zhao Yanzu, Yu Bingyan, or even her. To think of it, when he rebelled against Long Xiang, wasn't it because of her, this mere servant girl? With Yanzu and Yu Bingyan, one belonged to the Yu family and one the Zhao family. Both were from influential families that were the biggest obstacle to Ling Tian obtaining all under heaven. However, Ling Tian was actually able to come out with such a surprising decision to ensure the emotional well-being of his women. If compared with another ruthless character, who else would care about something other than his ambition? However, Ling Tian cared, and very much so. While this might pose problems in his road of world domination, Ling Tian had long decided to do just that. Annihilating the Zhao and Yu families went without saying. However, the lives of those who had a relationship with one of his women had to be considered. This sentence already fully spoke of Ling Tian's unique insistence and also spoke volumes about how much Ling Tian loved his women. In this world where wives were like clothes but brothers like one's hands and feet, a woman's position was extremely low. From a woman's point of view, for Ling Tian to do this was extremely precious to them. It is easy to exchange for priceless treasures, but it is difficult to obtain the perfect husband. This was why Ling Chen was happy and touched. Turning back, Ling Tian laughed. Advisor, now that we have been unburdened, come, I still haven't had the pleasure of trying your tea leaves. Meng Lij also let out an unrestrained laugh. Since young noble wants to enjoy himself, then Meng Lij will accompany you to drink to our heart's content. As he spoke, the two exchanged a glance, understanding each other's thoughts as they shared a smile. A broken bar. Rumors spread all over the place. The Heavenly Star continent became a haven for rumors all of a sudden. Rumors suddenly became a synonym for news. And what was considered accurate news could no longer be found. The first rumor was that the Skybearing Empire's young noble Ling Tian was killed by the Martial Order Medallion, and that justice had already gone back to beyond heavens, returning the Martial Order Medallion. The Ling family had already secretly brought his body back to Skybearing, and in order to prevent the armies from growing uneasy, chose to keep it a secret. The second rumor said that while the martial head was in pursuit of Ling Tian, he fell into his trap and was killed by Ling Tian. As such, Ling Tian had now taken over the position of Martial Order Medallion owner, becoming the new top expert, a new hero of this generation. Furthermore, the details of how the fight proceeded, how Ling Tian counterattacked, as well as how intense the final fight was, spread all around like wildfire by the martial artists, as though they had been there on the scene. The narrative was vividly and brightly colored, and spittle sprayed everywhere as they talked, causing everyone to stare dumbfounded at the broken bar. From time to time there would be opposing rumor mongers that would gather together. There would even be a few who started to fight with each other, trying to choke each other while insisting that their side was the truth and that the other party was spewing nonsense. Broken bar. In this event, the Heavenly Star continent seemed to have become a lively market that revolved around finding the entire story. There were people who were suspicious, people in disbelief, people viewing this affair with schadenfreude. The entire continent seemed to have become a pot of boiling water, bubbling in excitement. As the two strong rumors were duking it out, along came a splash of cold water which caused the faces of everyone present to change. A third rumor rapidly spread out. A broken bar. Do you know why the Ling family's 200,000 troops are stationed at southern Jing? The Ling family already formed an alliance with the Zhao family and is waiting for them to arrive before the two families work together to swallow southern Jing and unify the world. A broken bar. I also heard that when the two families destroy southern Jing, they will draw out a boundary, with the east belonging to the Zhao and the west belonging to the Ling. They even have a name for it, the Ling Boundary River. My news is accurate. A broken bar. I even heard that the Zhao and Ling families were longtime friends and their old sires have been sworn brothers for over a decade. If the Zhao family don't look for the Ling family, then who else would they find? Now that the Ling family has gotten some benefits, of course they have to share. Besides, the Zhao family's little princess is even betrothed to the young noble Ling Tian. Actually, when they broke the marriage betrothal that year, it was all a ploy to fool the public. Even the attacks of the Zhao family on the Ling family were all an act, merely a ploy. While everyone was stupid enough to believe, I am someone with a good mind and can clearly see a broken bar. A broken bar. That's right, ha ha ha, looks like southern Jing is in for it. A broken bar. A broken bar. Yeah. I heard that the Zhao family's armies were about to arrive. Looks like they're already planning to attack soon. A broken bar. A broken bar. The Ling family is not just on the same line as the Zhao family. You definitely do not know this, but the Ling family has also allied with the Wu Count. A broken bar. Don't believe it? Screw you. This old man has personally seen the diplomatic group head towards the Wu Count. A broken bar. Why would they even go there at this time? I assume that these things are going on. Look at my sources. Aren't they accurate? A broken bar. A broken bar. Weird, strange, preposterous. All sort of different news flew around the entire Heavenly Star continent. Some were good, some bad, some useless, and some revealed important information. The entire Heavenly Star seemed to be like popcorn kernels in a heated pot, with the various rumors popping out and flying off to all corners of the world akin to locusts, whipping the crowds into a frenzy. The speed at which the news spread was faster than a hurricane and blew to every possible crevice of the continent. A broken bar. In Northern Wei, Yu Man Lu sat with a solemn face for a long moment as he listened to all these rumors that blanketed the world. Finally, he sent out his only command: all troops are to move, and within the shortest possible time, occupy Western Han. Send word to the 3 pavilion heads, gather 500 men, and together with the second and third young master, to engage above heavens. Only success is allowed. When those Yu family experts that had gone over to Skybearing came back to Bright Jade City in tatters after being defeated, Yu Manlu nearly vomited at a mouth of blood in anger. Those were a good half of the overall strength of the white jade experts in the Yu family. To think that they were almost wiped out. He did not speak, merely brushing his sleeves before leaving, his original calm and unmoved stance no longer present. The next few days, the Yu family fell into an oppressive silence, with all of the dead family's mourning cries sounding all over, giving Yu Manlu a massive headache. This was followed by the appearance of one of the three hidden sects of yesteryear, the above heavens. 500 horsemen actually audaciously appeared in Bright Jade City, and what made Yu Manlu truly jump in anger was that they came with a pugilistic world greeting, looking to resolve a feud for their disciple. Their method was even more clear-cut, for both sides to send out an expert and fight it out. Whether they won or lost, the matter would be resolved. This was originally the most common method to resolve problems, but to hear this request now made Yu Manlu depressed to no end. The first problem being that the elites of the Lei family were arriving soon, and the second being that it was a crucial time to gather their forces against the Western Han. Thirdly, the defeated forces had just returned from skybearing with losses of up to 90%, and they did not even have a person that returned unharmed, leaving the family in an anxious and depressed mood. For the above heavens sect to choose this method to seek justice could be considered the best timing for them. This was the time when the Yu family was at its lowest. Right now, Yu Manlu was feeling a headache over the troops' arrangements. The experts from each troop could not be transferred here. Also, he was not willing to bury all 500 of the above heavens disciples here. The first would cause great losses, and the second, a broken bar above heavens, was the support for the Zhao family and was Ling Tian's chief enemy. If he were to settle the above heavens people, wouldn't that give Ling Tian a breather? He originally intended to use the people sent to skybearing since they had already exposed themselves, but looking at the tattered army, Yu Manlu was at a complete loss for words. Having heard that Yu San Kong, an elder and an expert in the family, was ambushed by the Shui family as well as an expert, and was so scared that he could not sleep and even wet his pants, what sort of expectations could he still have towards the forces sent to skybearing? Furthermore, upon thinking of how he actually subconsciously aided Ling Tian, Yu Manlu was even more depressed. The two of them actually had wagered a bet, a grand bet as huge as the heavens themselves. In 5 years, a final fight under the heavens. But the damned Zhao family was supposed to be taken care of by Ling Tian. The weaker their power and influence, the easier time Ling Tian would have to defeat them, and his odds would also be higher. However, Yu Manlu had to settle the problem with above heavens first. They were already knocking on his front door. For goodness sake, could he choose to ignore them instead? Would the above heavens even allow him to? Furthermore, this matter really had nothing to do with Ling Tian and was the above heavens themselves looking for him, the starting point being the fault of the third young noble of the Yu family. Thinking about his son that failed to live up to his expectations, Yu Manlu's anger began to flare up even more. Thus, Yu Manlu was in a fine temper the last few days. This was as good as cutting off all contact. Yet trouble still falls from the sky. Another person's problem actually became my own. Are they taking the Yu family as mud on the streets now? To think the above heavens still think of themselves as one of the three great hidden sects, while this daddy here cannot afford to offend you. Don't think that I place all of you in my eyes. Chapter 565, The Azure Moves. Just as Yu Manlu was pondering how to extricate himself from this mess, the rumors started to fly around, just like a blanket wrapping up the entire world within it. At this time, Yu Manlu made up his mind. Others might not know, but he who was looking from the outside knew exactly what the rumors indicated. After giving out the command, he walked heavily towards his window, gazing at the clouds high up in the south, as a sense of urgency took over his heart. Ling Tian had returned to skybearing. The perpetrator behind all these schemes was definitely him, and this news meant a broken bar. His greatest enemy had actually escaped from the death clutches of justice. To think that the person he was afraid to face actually could not manage to kill his greatest enemy today. Justice, the martial order medallion owner and #1 expert, actually failed to kill a child less than 20 years old who hadn't finished growing his hair. This was supposed to be a joke, But this joke actually turned into reality. All the news items were filtered at once through Yu Manlu's mind. They converged into an arrow whose head was pointed towards a certain direction, the south. Ling Tian was ready to take action on southern Jing. The previous command was the counterattack from Yu Manlu. The latter side. What was a good scheme? It was to be able to destroy a person without the use of any force. Just by this blanket of rumors that were spread out, southern Jing would already have no choice but to be pressured down. Southern Jing probably would not last much longer, thus to prevent Ling Tian from conquering it, the Yu family would have to first take over the Western Han to hold the advantage in their hands. A cold ray reflected off Yu Manlu's eyes, and the hand that was gripping his chair subconsciously exerted its strength, and with a caca sound the wood was ground to bits in his palm, a broken bar. During that same time, within the Ling family courtyard, everything was proceeding in a methodical and organized manner. The surrounding cities around Li City still continued to send in intelligence from time to time, their content virtually the same. After Ling Tian received the news, she sent down the order for them to go undercover and not send any more reports, and instead to wait for the next command. As for the Crystal Pavilion, their news still continued to flow uninterrupted into the Ling family courtyard. There were two news items that caught her attention. On the 19th night, Zhao Fengyang's army secretly shifted around 1.5 kilometers, setting up camp near forest. During the night, there were no movements, not even lights. The spy suspected foul play yet was unable to see anything strange and found it odd. On the 20th morning, while the Zhao army started to cook their food, tens of thousands of soldiers squared up and went through their military drills, their movements extremely powerful. After that, they returned to camp and began to check their horses and supplies. However, following the practice, the Zhao army shifted once again from the right to the left, leaving the extreme right side of theirs empty, and separating from the path and the forest. These two bits of news seemed to have no important message or make any sense, but after filtering, the news was immediately caught by Menglij and Ling Tian. Indeed, not out of advisors' expectations. It seemed like the Zhao family has begun to move, and it seems like we have calculated correctly. Ling Tian smiled as he looked at Menglij in admiration. That's right. Making camp near or within a forest has always been a taboo for an army. One reason would be the fear of a fire, and another would be the fear of spies. Thus, Zhao Fengyang only camped there for a night before quickly leaving. Menglij laughed. However, one night's time would be enough to allow an army of 10,000 men to break up into tiny sections, filtering out of the main force and shifting to another location by borrowing the trees as cover. When they merged together in the end, they would then be able to perform a lightning-quick attack. He smiled serenely. If a person was not familiar with how Fengyang acted, then they would have been blinded from the truth. Even with these two pieces of information, the separated group would definitely be elites, and would not consist of too many. After slipping into sky bearing, they would definitely have a rendezvous point. What we should do now is to uncover their meeting spot, apply direct force, and crush them. That would be the best scenario. Ling Tian and Ling Tian nodded. Since they were aware that these people were coming to sky bearing, then finding them would not be a difficult matter. This group should have a strength of above 1,000 but below 5,000. However, if they wish to rely on this group to throw skybearing into chaos, that is not enough, thus there should be an additional element inside this plan. I believe that when they act, Zhao Fengyang's army would definitely also coordinate with a feint so as to accommodate them. Maybe all three of their armed forces would actually strike. This is also why he disabled the intelligence from Li City, which is the only obstacle between him and skybearing, but not the other three cities. He also wishes to use the erroneous reports from the other three cities to mislead us while he does his feint, to divert our attention, allowing the infiltrators to achieve the greatest success. Menglij frowned as he continued, solving this matter is of paramount importance. After all, the Zhao family can make a move at any time, and the initiative is not with us. We have to ferret out those infiltrators before they can activate their feint, turning from passive to the active party. There is a certain difficulty to this, but there should be indications of their tracks. Since Zhao Fengyang took down Li City, then the elite troops would definitely come from the gate closest to that. Following down this route, it will not be too difficult to dig them out, since skybearing is, in the end, Our territory. Ling Tian stood up as he smirked. It's not just not too difficult, but rather as easy as flipping a hand. Mr. has planned this meticulously this time, covering all possible loopholes. Now it's our turn to tie up the loose ends. Ming Li only waved his hands, a twinkling laughter in his eyes. I'm just limited as a scholar, only able to use my mouth. Young noble is the one possessing real capabilities, and Liege here will congratulate you beforehand on your success. Ling Tian chuckled merrily, but thick killing intent had already begun to gather on his expression. Since they had the audacity to come to this noble's territory to start a fight, then they had better be prepared to leave their lives behind. That night, Ling Tian, Jian, and Kai gathered 500 elites without the slightest bit of notice, silently slipping out of the Ling family courtyard and heading east. The galloping horses sounded like a torrential downpour, and as the Azure moved, he carried a sky full of killing intent. In front of us is Tai City. Ling Jian brandished his horsewhip, as he chuckled. If anyone from the Zhao family wishes to enter Skybearing from Li City, this place cannot be avoided. While Tai City is small, it exists as a strategic fortress, with a mountain pass around 10 kilometers away from the east gates. It is flanked by 2 mountains, so unless the Zhao family chooses not to enter from the direction of Li City, they will eventually end up in this place. Ling Tian sat straight on his horse. Even with the strong wind slashing across his face, his eyes were wide open, the steel within gleaming. Aren't there any guards standing by the entrance of Tai City? If a few thousand people from the Zhao family were to pass by, how can they even hide from us? Ling Jian replied, based on the secret elites of the Zhao family, to eliminate some soldiers would be nothing difficult. Even if they were to control the entire fortress's soldiers, I would not find it surprising. Maron, why can't you think one layer deeper? Ling Tian glared. The Zhao family's objective is Skybearing, which includes either the Ling residence or the Ling family courtyard. If they wantonly kill people here, there will be some news no matter how they do it. My side will immediately receive the news at the latest in the day, and by then, how could they perform their mission? Zhao Fengyang's plan would thus die before having the chance to surface. For him to meticulously go to great lengths to plan this expedition, how could he make a blunder at this critical juncture? Young noble is saying that inside the fortress, there is already an undercover agent belonging to the Zhao family. Ling Jian's brain clicked and he blurted out. Ling Tian's face was placid like water, but a trace of thick killing intent flashed through his eyes. Not only such a person, but their rank must also be quite high. This is however within my expectations. To have ruled for Skybearing for such a long time, if they do not have any spies within the place, then that would be odd. However, after this matter, all those undercover personnel in the Ling family that belong to the Zeos will all turn into ashes and bones. On the side, Ling Kai chased up with his horse, running alongside the two of them with a look of excitement on his face. Before this, the kid had been assigned by Ling Chen to guard beside Shui Qianhuan, causing him to be stifled badly. Now that he had the chance to go out, and to even follow alongside Ling Tian and Jian, his idol and respected senior, he became even more energetic and excited. Right now, after the long journey, even Ling Tian started to feel the itch and abrasions on his legs and butt, but Ling Kai was still bouncy and vivacious, lively beyond measure. Look at this, our little Kai is so energetic. Jian, compared to him, we're like old men. Ling Tian smiled as he looked at Ling Kai, before turning to talk to Ling Jian. Hearing this, Ling Jian nearly fell from his horse. Old? Even if he was older than Ling Tian, he was only 19, how was he old? Besides, even though Ling Kai was called young, he was already 16 years old. It was just that Ling Tian implied that Ling Jian was older than Ling Kai by many years. How could that be? And to think that Ling Tian called him childish a few days ago, and now he turns around and says that he was old. So what exactly was he broken bar? No matter what, he had to cope with the young noble's words. Facing the wind, Ling Jian let out an unrestrained laugh. That goes without saying. Right now, little Kai is facing his springtime. Having a little beauty beside him for company every day, his days would of course be spent in bliss. Ling Kai's ears immediately turned red, and he pretended to be angry. Brother Jian, what nonsense are you spouting? Since when do I have a beauty by my side? On the other side, Feng Mo had silently arrived. He chortled out in laughter, before holding his nose and doing his best imitation of someone as he weirdly pouted, "A broken bar. Little Chi, a broken bar. I am going to make mincemeat out of you. A broken bar. Quickly, a broken bar. Come here, a broken bar." Then he reverted to his old voice, hoarsely laughed as he continued, "That day, I heard these two sentences and this old man's bones went soft immediately. Young noble, you have to reward me for this. If it wasn't for this old Feng taking care of him, I'm afraid our little brother Ling Kai would have gotten his flower plucked by that Miss Deer." "Oh, a broken bar based off of Lady Li Zhu, it should be having his grass eaten a broken bar one." Chapter 566, Dense Forest and Night. Everybody present burst into raucous laughter, animatedly waving their hands. A few even fell off their horses from laughter. Ling Kai's face turned crimson from anger, and he tried to explain, but no one was already listening to him. Even Ling Tian was pointing at Feng Mo while chortling, "Old Feng, for that last Li Zhu to joke like this means nothing, but to see someone as old as you behaving like this, I never thought that a big bloke like you could imitate a shy young lady to perfection. It's been hard on you." Feng Mo laughed as well. "Young master might not know it, but even if I were to learn from little brother Ling Kai here and speak out, even that Miss Deer would not be able to recognize the difference." "Oh, there's such a thing?" Ling Tian stared at Feng Mo with interest. Feng Mo sniggered, "I still remember exactly the two sentences little brother Ling Kai spoke to Miss Deer last night. A broken bar." He then cleared his throat, ready for another round of performance. Ling Kai's face seemed to turn into the red of pig's blood. While nobody could see it in the dark, everyone could feel the embarrassment radiating off him in waves. He begged, "Big brother Feng, a broken bar. Uncle Feng, a broken bar. Great Mr. Feng, I'm begging you, a broken bar." Ling Jian smiled so widely, his eyes narrowed into slits. "Old Feng, ignore him, just do it." Feng Mo coughed twice, before pinching his nose and impersonating, "A broken bar. Little dear, come over, let your brother Kai here kiss you. A little broken bar. Wah ha ha ha." Ling Tian and Ling Jian both let out howls of laughter, and the breath they held in suspense came rushing out. Ling Tian even slipped off from his horse, rolling a few times before finally flipping back up. Ling Kai's neck also turned red now as he screamed, "Bullshit, I didn't say that. I said that a broken bar." And he stopped short. "What did you say?" On the side, another blood iron warrior sidling up with shifty eyes and a gossipy smile. "I didn't say anything." Scram! Upon realizing that he had almost been tricked, Ling Kai would naturally not continue talking. He viciously glared at that blood iron warrior, before huffily riding his horse away. "Ha ha, to think that the stoic and cool Ling Kai would actually be a romantic saint, quietly deceiving a little lady into your hands. This is really too powerful of you. Indeed, you're a little grass," Ling Jian raucously called out. Ling Jian kept on his brilliant smile as he looked at Ling Kai. No wonder why this kid has been laughing to himself recently. "So, his springtime has arrived. Congratulations." "No, a broken bar. It's not the Kazi broken bar. What little grass, what springtime?" "Why are young noble and brother Jian joining in with Feng Mo to tease me? I'm not that kind of broken bar." Ling Kai had a red face as he stuttered, vehemently denying. "Haha, a broken bar. What kind are you talking about? A broken bar?" A wave of laughter rippled through, immediately pushing off the exhaustion in that group of riders. "A broken bar, a broken bar." A few hundred armored riders continued on, shattering the silence of the night. In front of them, a black clump appeared and the fresh smell of leaves assailed their noses. No doubt they had arrived before a forest. All of a sudden, Ling Tian let out a clear sound, and the well-built horse below him let out a corresponding neigh, rushing out another 30 feet before abruptly stopping. At the same time, Ling Tian's right hand raised up high, making a gesture. Everyone immediately slowed down and stopped, and in an instant, silence overwhelmed the area. Ling Jian's actions were the fastest. He immediately flipped down from his horse and approached Ling Tian. "Young noble, the forest feels a little weird." Ling Tian's eyes were like stars as they stared within the pitch-black forest. He slowly replied, "You felt it too?" "There are at least 10 different people hiding within. Just now, I saw the flash of a torch, but it's gone now." This forest was still within Sky-bearing Empire's area of influence, Thus if there were people acting stealthily within the forest, it would be that they were not people from the Empire. If they were people from Skybearing, then it would not be a cause for concern, but if they weren't, such secretive tracks would mean that they were definitely enemies, or at least strangers harboring evil thoughts. The two of them exchanged a glance, and Ling Tian's eyes lit up as he whispered, "Young noble, do you think that they are from the Zhao family or the Above Heavens sect?" Ling Tian furrowed his brows as he thought. But soon after, he shook his head, saying, "It will not be such a coincidence. I believe the Zhao family wouldn't have arrived so fast, nor would their numbers be so few. It's just that, if these strangers aren't from the Zhao family, then who do they belong to in order for them to appear here?" The forest was devoid of sound, and with Ling Tian and his group galloping over previously, even the smallest noise made would travel far, let alone their disorderly hoofbeats. The other party must have been aware of their arrival, and taken the precaution to cover up. Ling Tian cautiously looked towards the front, before waving his hands as he softly warned, "All are to dismount and conceal yourselves. Right now, the enemy is in the light while we are in the dark, so we cannot rashly move." "Ling Tian, follow me inside to take a look." "Safety comes first." Soundlessly, all 100 of them simultaneously flipped down from their horses. Ling Tian moved and disappeared within the night. He found a huge boulder, and leaned against it, ready to take action at any time. Just as he wanted to take bearings on where the young noble was hidden, he discovered to his astonishment that even Ling Tian's shadow had disappeared. A broken bar. Ling Tian naturally put to full use his own unique techniques, blending into the pitch-black forest as he bored the protection from the night, his figure appearing at times like a boulder, a little tree, the tall grass, or even air itself. Without anybody noticing, he had already soared past 400 to 500 meters, completely infiltrating into the forest. He was even faster than Ling Tian, who had acted the moment he gave the orders. Behind him, Ling Tian stared with mouth agape when he saw Ling Tian soar forward. Thinking of the method he was using to infiltrate, he could not help but feel ashamed. What a distance between them! However, Ling Tian's movements had all been recorded inside Ling Tian's eyes, and he was still pretty satisfied with them. Right now, there was an obvious increase in the skill of Ling Tian's movement techniques compared with the life and death battle at Northern Wei or when he was sparring against Li Zhu. Be it nimbleness or ingenuity, there was a marked improvement. "It looks like Ling Tian really needed a beating." Ling Tian laughed to himself, his figure never slowing down as he transitioned from branch to branch without even disturbing a blade of grass along the way, quietly and noiselessly. In front of him, there was a small open space. Ling Tian directed his gaze towards there, and saw the smoldering embers of a freshly extinguished bonfire, still letting out a black smoke and a disgusting smell. However, there was not a single shadow to be seen. It seemed like these group of people were actually quite careful, extinguishing their fire the moment they heard the hoofbeats and immediately hiding. Furthermore, their hiding spots were actually quite good, so that even with Ling Tian's eyesight he temporarily could not find where they were. Ling Tian closed his eyes, spreading out his sixth sense, his divine sense moving like mercury as it covered every single spot in a wide area around him. At the same time, the sounds of countless breathing entered his ears. While a person could hide and reduce their presence, they couldn't possibly hide their breathing, right? From behind him came a minute movement. Ling Tian had also appeared on the tree to the right of him. The two of them shared a glance, and Ling Tian stretched out a hand, lifting up a finger as he gestured to the left and right respectively. This meant that there were at least 100 people present. Ling Tian's right hand chopped at the empty air, as a hint of killing intent surfaced in his eyes. His meaning was clear. "Do we kill all of them?" Ling Tian thought for a moment, before pressing his palm in the air, signaling him to not be impatient. Just as they were signaling to each other, there came a slight rustling from below them, and two men stood up huffily. One of them whispered in as he gasped for breath, "Damn it! Which troops have arrived out there? Why is there no more sound coming from them?" This daddy here nearly stifled himself to death. The other person hurriedly spoke, "Shut your mouth. What are you babbling about? This place is within the territory of Skybearing, and not only are we conspicuous, we're surrounded by enemies. It's better to be cautious." The man who spoke previously spat on the ground, before lowly replying, Who's to say that the people outside are from the Ling family? Right now, the Ling family's powers are fully spread out across all 8 directions, so why would they have the time to pay attention to this place? Furthermore, our actions have been so secretive. Could it be that you're afraid of our plans being leaked? The young noble has already gone to fetch our allies, and before he left, he told us to not get spotted by any influence. Did you not remember this? If young noble knows that you behave so carelessly, he'll skin you alive. That person chuckled in embarrassment, as though pretty scared of the said young noble, but then he grumbled again. This group of soldiers is really weird, traveling in the night. That's still fine, but since we've already retreated, then you can just go ahead and cross. We're not even looking for you. But why are you guys stopping at the edge of the forest and not proceeding further? Isn't this just torturing us? Even if they were to enter and start fighting with us, that's still better than our current condition. As the two of them were conversing, the grass continuously rustled as silhouettes walked out from the darkness one after another. Their heavy breaths mixed together into one sound. One could see how exceedingly cautious this group was, to hide and hold their breaths the moment Ling Tian and his troops passed by, silently waiting for them to pass. If it was another troop that passed by, they would probably not even notice the presence of over 100 men hidden within the dense forest. Regrettably, they just had to meet Ling Tian. From the time when Ling Tian had suddenly stopped outside the forest, they had held their breaths. This was no ordinary feat, as not everyone would be Xianjian realm experts, able to hold their breaths for a long period of time. However, other than a select few conversing, everyone remained silent. Even those who were conversing did so in a low voice, extremely cautiously. Ling Tian quietly rested on the big tree above him. Below him, some of the people who revealed themselves also leaned on the exact same tree as him, but none discovered that above them actually hid a death god. As for Ling Tian on the tree, he was also astonished, for he recognized 2 of the people who were below him. Finally, Ling Tian realized why the Zhao family was so confident about invading in secret. Thank you for your continued following. Please support us by subscribe to encourage our continued creation. And press the bell to notify new chapter from us. Thank you.